All right. I'm going to go ahead and start running through this. This is a two-way thing. Feel free to yell at me. I thrive on heckling. If you think I'm saying something up here that is completely ludicrous, completely wrong, please feel free to correct it and let me know that. I mean, I've got a bunch of fun stuff I want to run through. I'm an industry veteran, and I've run through and seen a lot of different things. So what I want to run through today is kind of this past, present, and what's next, and show you kind of my perspective on what I've seen growing up in the channel. Does this go? There we go. So how did we kind of get to this situation? Where we stand today, we've got a lot of vertically integrated solutions. As you know, it's bam, you look at a Control4 solution, you can buy everything you need from them. Crestron, buy everything you need from them. Savant, buy everything you need from them. And you look at all of these other ancillary pieces that also complement that. It wasn't always that way. It's taken us a long time to get here, and I don't think that necessarily we can really get the proper perspective on where things are going unless we take a look back in that rear view mirror to see how we got here. You know, what really adjusts things to make us decide what to use, what to adopt, what to reject, what not to adopt, and kind of run through things. And it's a dynamic time in the industry. There's a lot of things happening. You hear a lot of buzzwords about AI. You hear a lot of things, and I'll touch on some of that stuff as well. I do have a lot of slides. I'm not going to go quite as fast as Ham here, looking for the Chicken Man and Toy Story. But you know, I reference this because, you know, again, I'll touch on this a lot. The power of the demo. That's the connection to our clients. That piece, that element, what we sell is an experience. What we create is an experience. And we tie that in with simplicity, and all these parts and all these booths all complement that. And a lot of this comes in, hey Dan, thanks for coming, baby. When we look at this and see where I did something at the ASEAN conference as well. And what I did with that, it was this evolution of human interfaces. That was when I was with Josh AI, and I was really focusing on where things were going. Because at one point, what we get into, we kind of get stuck in our ways. Even though our clients may see us as a highly adaptable, highly advanced companies that are cutting edge, sometimes we're a little bit tough to get moving and make and have the change that we often think we're doing. So we'll get stuck in our ways, and there's reasons for that, and I've got some good examples that I'll touch on with that. But when you look at it, I also want to pull in and go into it from a perspective of looking at the convergence of a lot of things. So there's technology, being just basic technology that we see and how all that's changed. Then we have transportation, and then we also get into this communications aspect of things, which is highly dynamic right now as well. And I pull this in through a way of like kind of the interfaces on the way that we've evolved in the channel. And that interface is really what we've always strived for in this channel, trying to make it easier. How do we do it? We didn't always offer all of the product solutions because we lacked that vertical integration. We fought like crazy to get these vertical integrations, to get the things into the touch panel, to get these things into the other devices that we are supporting and selling throughout the home. You know, so what's the industry look like today? Today we're a market where, depending on how you cut it up, there's 16 rep firms really through North America. There's 11,000 integration companies, depending on how you cut it up there too, in residential. You can throw in some commercial and some other guys that are under the radar that you have no idea who they are. When I worked at Avid in LA, I had a list of 8,000 employees, of 8,000 integrators supposedly in LA, right? Chris, you worked there, and I supported you in that market, and that was a crazy market. But how many guys are in that market doing work? When you look at those dealer segments, there's distribution dealers, and then you get into the non-buying group dealers. And then when you kind of evolve a little bit and you get the opportunity to move into a buying group, and the buying group guys have a tendency to get and be a little bit more refined, and there's different guys and flavors and that you can get into and touch on that. But it took a long time to get here. There weren't always this. It wasn't always these guys that were around. Now when you also take a look at, did I skip twice? No. Here we go. Okay, I'm checking. Now, when you look at C Pro 100, the top 100 guys are doing $6 million a year. You're doing $6 million a year, you're doing pretty good. You know, a couple guys can start up a company, and you can do $1 million with a couple guys in a truck pretty quick once you start doing it. Refining those processes and really diving through it really gets you into the ability to make a lot of money and also deliver better services to your clients. When you look at, you're doing about 70 projects, and that's give or take, depending on what type of business you're doing. Some guys may only be doing 6 projects if they're large enough, right? So we run through, you know, how did we get here? How? What was that path? The pieces that really started it and got that inception point of getting us to the point of where we are today. I'm going to break it into these 3 little segments, and then I'll get into a new category, so it's really kind of 4, but I'll start with the AV, and that's the icon I'll use for the AV side. And then from there, we're going to go and look at some other pieces of it and get to now. So we'll go take a journey back in time. I used to look like Doc Brown when I had big, crazy hair. I cut it, you know, much to the chagrin of some people, but it gets a little hot with having thick hair like this. But, you know, you run through and you look at it, and every time, is it changing? Oh, you know, how I feel talking about the 80s to someone under 30, it's about the case, right? It's amazing. And, like, I was sitting there the other day, I saw some, like, reel on Instagram or TikTok thing. I didn't even understand what was going on. I think it has finally evolved past my level and capabilities of understanding of the younger generation. But when you go through and think about all this stuff, and look, we had Pitfall, and we talked about, like, did you burn CDs and these other things. I mean, how many of y'all are burn a CD old? But one of the things that I did when I was a kid, my dad worked for Pioneer Semiconductor, and I was in some of these distribution houses, and I remember the Atari when it first came out, kind of dating my stuff, playing track and field. You just get the marks right here on this. And, you know, those are kind of some of the first things. But really, what started, what made, what really created our channel? Well, I argue that it's really kind of this need for entertainment, whatever that is. That type of entertainment back then without television, you know, it's gladiators doing all these things, had separate music and these other pieces, but we have an insatiable desire to be entertained all the time. Now, in our channel, where that started and where that really came up was, come on, baby, audio. When you look at that 2-channel audio pieces, these are a couple pieces there. There's a shout out to my buddy's dog, Chulo. That's me on stage being crazy, yes, because I wanted to make sure I had copyright capabilities on that image by putting it up there. But when you look at it, everybody wanted audio. The hi-fi guys really drove this and started the inception of it. You know, and that started with the sources. You know, content is king. Come on. There we go. Content is king. I'm not going to go back this far, but you look at where that came from and it started. You're talking 1857 for this piece, the phonoautograph, which really kind of started playing music for the first time. That's one of those things, like you could probably imagine those guys are sitting around doing whatever they did in their wigs and doing, I don't know, 1857, what they're doing. But it's a time during then that they're doing that. And then it's where you look at, you know, the technology created the demand. And so you look back at this, it was cassette tapes. This thing is, I wish I could find one of these. This is a piece, I like some of that vintage stuff, but that technology created the demand. And then from there, the hi-fi shops created the experience. And from that, they're going through and they're talking about, and there's a lot of fun stories about those hi-fi shops back in the day, about how that goes. Like it's 40-year-old version even had that whole thing about the retail experience about things within the channel as well. But you look, these are some great ads, and it's about music. It's about that, and that passion and that connection to it. And now, after the hi-fi shops create that experience, you know, the hi-fi store became this. The hi-fi store became complex system integration. Now, remember, it was fragmented with video doing one thing, audio 2-channel doing another, and it didn't really come together at some point really successfully until recently. We had to fight to do this. We had to fight to get there. So we go through these projects and we look at the complexity of the systems and where it is today and how it got here. Now to the point you're doing complex systems, audio, home theater design, acoustic isolation. You never would have thought back in the hi-fi days of this thing that we would ever get to a point that you needed a project manager, a lighting and shade specialist, an interior designer, these types of things, and having all of these segments of where this place has evolved and grown to is exciting. But remember, like I said, content is king. All the content, all the formats. And that content comes in a lot of different formats and shapes, sizes, and the way and the efficiencies, right? Now, I was born in retail and that thing. And one thing that I will share is one of the things that helped us back then is how many people in here worked or came from in some way in the retail environment of some place like this? And me? Anybody? I did. But what do you remember, too, about your exposure to this technology? Where did that come from? How many people do you meet in a week that you meet randomly, that it's not a client? They say, what do you do for work? And they have no idea that this even exists. The people that know about this are at such a high level of really wealth, 1%, and I think it's really critical. It's a different conversation for us to get down into that 5 and 10% to really grow the capabilities of what we can accomplish as an industry in the resi side. But where did this stuff come from? This gave our clients exposure. I came from Incredible Universe. And that was because actually Ovation Audio Video, which was, they wouldn't hire me. I was a young kid. All I did was going into Ovation, listening to stuff, checking out car stereos, doing all these things. They wouldn't give me a shot. Incredible Universe gave me a shot. And this is a place that was 100,000 square feet. Take a look at this. You walk in, and this, Fry's Electronics eventually ended up buying this. You walk in, there's a rotunda, there's a huge video wall, there's a stage, there's all these things going on, all this activity. There's a McDonald's inside, right? There's all these things going on, constant craziness. I was activating 500 cellular contracts a week at one point. But what they did is they created a culture within that made us get people excited about technology. People wanted to come in just to see, and the motto was, and this is Tandy Corp. Well, let me back up. Tandy Corporation started Incredible Universe based on they wanted to create a CES experience for everyday people and be able to do that every day. Now, the motto was, and we did this every morning in the rotunda, all the employees were all wearing our purple shirts. It's like, if it's not the universe, and all the employees go, it doesn't exist, everything. And so they created an environment of fun. We make things fun. We also have a tendency to get caught up in the everyday rigmarole of our business, and we forget about the fun because we're stuck in the process too, right? And we're going to touch on some things on how to really push and make that profitability and make it easier and expand on that. But the Incredible Universe thing is something that's fun. And then same with it, Ultimate, Circuit City, all these other guys. And with those guys being gone, how do we get exposure to the mass market about what we do, short of some products along the lines like Sonos and those types of things that become consumer-driven that we adopt, right? So when you look at CEDIA, there's obviously CEDIA, the organization, then there's CEDIA Expo, but then there's the body of all of us that make up CEDIA, and that's the part. You know, the first CEDIA meeting was, what, in 1990, I think I had 500 employees. I had a good conversation with Tom Doherty about this stuff and the inception of where we came from. And it all came down to really us running through and trying to meet the demands of what the clients wanted to be able to get the same audio content going throughout. And those adoptions were largely brought in from the car stereo world, right? They were adapting ADS stuff, doing 70-volt systems, doing things throughout, and it was only happening in New York and in California. And it was some home entertainment magazines and some other elements there that exposed these other guys that were kind of doing other custom things that, hey, this exists. Then Sonance comes out with the in-wall speaker in 1985. Somewhere shortly after that, I think Speakercraft comes out with the in-ceiling speaker. And you look at, these are like big names in our industry today that stood the test of time and made things happen. The big change was going from really analog to digital. When that analog to digital piece started to happen, we rented laser discs at my job I did in college. So we sold laser discs, and we rented them, and it was always getting people in. So they had that hook so they could come in and see the new stuff. And we had a speaker upgrade program. I was still in college, and the thought of, this product, the Lexicon Remote, it's an LCD matrix, dot matrix. This piece really exposed, and this is something that I like to share. We don't give ourselves enough credit for really paving the way on interfaces that we do today in every single thing, in every single aspect, from website development to apps to everything it is. We did that first. Give yourselves some credit. The guys and the veterans, we did that. Now it's like Kevin's wheels are turning. I know that because he's in it on the development side too. But for me, you would move through this with source selection, right? One-way communication. It's selecting sources, and then what do? You move from there, you go down to transport controls, and you can change pages, go to numbers, and that's it. Then you go back home, boom, back up to the top, select a source, right? That was the first really kind of remote that gave you those abilities to put whole logic commands and sequences in. Then comes the Philips Pronto. We sold these like crazy. Now, one of the things that we, on our side, around that same time, Bose was a big thing. That whole demo, the speakers behind the big speakers and blowing minds, and that, a lot of people refer, no highs and lows, must be Bose type stuff, and give Bose a hard time because it was a closed ecosystem. That's really what we fought. People would come into my store and hand me, want to buy an Acoustimass 50 for $2,500. All I had to do is say, okay, and they'd buy it and pay $1,200 for the install, and I was gone. No, what did I do? I'm you. What'd you do? What would you? Like, nope, let's sell them a Denon AVR 3200. Let's sell them a Philips Pronto. Let's sell them all the things and give them a unified, expandable, capable system instead of the closed ecosystem. That was an example of one of those things. But again, no two-way communication, no two-way control. Then comes out the color version, $1,000 now, the TSU 6000, easier to go through and program, but still a lot cooler. It had dynamic icons, I think, that you'd hit the button and things would happen. Didn't have to use a Golf tee on it and be very sensitive with it. But these devices were also the best IR learners probably ever. I still have a TSU 2000. Yeah, I still have it. Boom, showing that, pulling that hex code, and you can do anything you want to with a device, no matter how old it is, even if you can't find the database. It's a whole different world. Now from there, we kind of moved, and then the control side, now I focus on the control side because it's so important. The IntelliControl. Now the IntelliControl is notorious for what? Needing reboots. And that also ties into my thing at the end, you'll be surprised. But that was a thing that this was easy to use because in the earlier, it wasn't easy for people to navigate. We didn't have those graphical user interfaces really refined yet. We're still doing some of our graphical user interfaces on the Crestron side and the AMX side, which were kind of archaic and not easy to use. But this made sense to people. Even though you had 5,000 different little plugs you'd put in, the processor would need to be rebooted. There was no such thing as Oversee or anything, or SurgeX Connect to be able to reboot it and fix that issue. No one knew, but it was a good, stable product that people liked. I sold a ton of these. $2,500 was what I was selling them for every project. Got a Pronto, an IntelliControl, or this, Crestron ST1550. Now, when we get into these also had an STX. That had two-way control. But what was the data in the beginning that you could get back? Very limited. It was like some thermostat pieces and some other things. We were still fighting to get that information back into the system for what? The music that we've been doing. We just finally started to figure out we're creating, hey, what's happening? We created all of these systems now, and in some ways I called them Frankenstein systems because I had a system, like my first big system I sold out of college was like $90,000. It had an AMX touch panel, it had Elan Via music in it, it had all these things, and there's no real custom doors, maybe a Hellovision or something door station, I'm probably getting that wrong. But all those other elements that made it really cool of where we are today, they weren't there. then you get into this, and I pulled this up here because this is funny. It's got estimated value. Remember what we used to sell these things for? This one was super cool because it had a auxiliary video input, so you could put really cool composite video into it, and it looks great, right? It was awesome. This is like cutting edge. Now, I'm going to take a deviation for a second. Let's put that stuff on hold, and we're going to come right back to it. Now let's go into telephones. This is the first telephone. Being in Denver, you kind of think it might look like something else because it's legal. But anyway, you go through and you look at this and kind of run through of all the iterations of the phones and the adoption and the evolution of this. There's some pieces. Kids today, and I was talking about this with my emotional support engineer, is what I call Jeff. He's like, kids don't understand this anymore. And they definitely don't understand this. Then now it's this. That's new to me. I'm like, okay, again. But this is kind of some of the changes that we look at in the evolution of all of it. And communications, these are things that we touch every day. Now, we get into about that time in the early 90s, you start looking at all these phones. You know, all of that's technology, and all those things kind of evolved and grew and got to a better point also. But when you look at, I mean, all of these different things, this is a fun time for phones. Because you could get a phone, like my favorite one was a Nokia, which is about this big. This is also still a time when people weren't consumed by their devices. You could still sit in the same room with people. Texting was non-existent because it was T9. Nobody wanted to mess with it. It was awful, right? But I look at these phones, and I think I had like 6 or 7 of them. But you know, then kind of one that was really popular was the Sidekick, right? Now this one actually had a great form factor. Super easy. It's like a keyboard. You could type like crazy on this. Now the T9's gone. That was really nice. But I want to talk about something else on the cellular phone side of it, BlackBerry. BlackBerry is a company that's an interesting case study to look at, and what they did and how they became what they became. They thought they had everything, right? They thought that push email would never be a thing. It would never catch on because they had security-enabled servers for the BlackBerry servers, all DoD and all this stuff had their things, and they didn't have to do anything. They didn't think they needed to innovate. They didn't think they needed to change. They had it on lockdown. Now, every once in a while, a disruptive technology comes along that really changes our lives. You guys remember this? Everybody remembers this? Some you may not. Maybe, probably not. No, you don't. I do. I remember my dad pulling those off, dropping it in the bottom of the beer can, and I'd always shake it around, right? But you know, the guy that then came out with what we use today, boom, changed everything. Still in use today. You know, the guy that invented that got like 3 cents for every single one of those ever. I've got a funny story about that, but we'll stay on topic. But again, what I want to talk about is disruptor. This changed everything. Everything. Because, and to this point, even the credit that I give ourselves in our touch panel development and all the stuff that we did, what didn't we do, what couldn't we do, what were we unable to do for so long is the swipe. The swipe took us from an XY coordinates of going into a source, diving in, to a whole infinite world, up, down, sideways, every way, to navigate everything within what we do. And then we've got just the pinch and zoom, exactly. All of these things, and even that has evolved. That is what changed it. Then, what'd we do? We're resisting it. What about my $5,000 touch panels? Oh, all these things. We still fought it. Why? Why do we fight these things? Because it was our way we were taught, the way we fought. We fought to get to where we were. Then, of course, the iPad comes out. Now, the iPad, I mean, that's all of this stuff with iOS and Android and all these pieces have really changed. And still, to a certain extent, we still kind of fight certain technologies. And I ask you why. Why do we do that? Because we're stuck in our ways? I don't know. It's hard to change, right? But now this is part of everyday thing. I remember I was losing a lot of projects when I was working in Aspen and Paragon. I was losing projects to Essentials because they had Savant, the whole iOS thing. And we were still kind of stuck. We were on the Crestron thing, and Savant wouldn't give us the line, and this and this and this. Well, a whole long funny story. But the story that Dave Daniels would tell of Essentials, he's like, yeah, you know, you don't need a $6,000 touch panel. See this? You just have this iPad, it breaks or something, you just throw it away. And he'd throw it in the garbage. That was part of his demo. Like, how do you compete with that? It took me a while to figure that part out, but eventually I got there. Now, we're going to go back to the AV side. I want to talk for a second, real quick, before I start diving more into kind of the main points here. What changed on the hi-fi and the audio side within us being able to get content into the touch panels really was kind of this Escient Fireball piece that they gave us the CD database, which eventually evolved into Grace Note. What that did is you put the CD in, the CD would go through and start figuring out what the length of the CD was, how many tracks it was, what the first track, second track, boom, boom, boom. And our industry came up with that on how to be able to do that. And once we had that, we could identify the CDs. This is all before digital. This is like before Napster. This is all this Spotify and where everything is. But that gave us the ability to get everything into these touch panels, which really changed it. But at this point, too, is when Sonos came out. We finally had the ability to get all the stuff we wanted into the touch panels, unified video, unified audio, singular control, consistent control, room to room, in order to make that experience good. And we were still kind of doing the things. We cut our teeth on opening up projectors, soldering boards, really solving problems for what our clients want. Why did our clients come to us? Our clients came to us because they had something they wanted, but it's ultimately about that service element. They trust us. They want us to be there. They want us to keep it working. You know, then we jump into this and all these cool things. We got, you know, the Lutron piece with Josh AI and all these other cool things. And look how far we've come. Now, there's Kaleidoscape. Again, that content, boom, probably the best mousetrap, right? And then we still kept that, and we had that. Then the next thing, and I worked for this next company too, Voodoo. Well, wait, I want to back up 1 second. Before this, what I have to do a Star Wars demo, to have something, play a thing, say, welcome to the show, open the shades, change this, go to this, and dim the lights, and then change content. We had to have 3 DVD players in order to make that happen, to make a cool thing, and you were fixed. You couldn't change any of that because you were in a set state. Now we've got the shortcut king over here from Josh AI, right? Tying in with all these hooks on content. But again, it's the power of content. Then we got in and we started fighting these digital battles within where we wanted to be on content and how we got that. Then, of course, Blockbuster's gone. I still have my Blockbuster card. I carry it with me, hold it dear. And then you see this content is king thing, right? Then we get back into like Prima Cinema, and there's a few others that came into for a moment, and these were really profitable. We could sell these. But what happened, the studios jumped over all of that. Now you can get a new release movie, you just pay 20 bucks or 40 bucks, whatever it is, for that movie, and you can watch it at home. Now, quickly I'm going to jump over for a sec into the transportation side of things. And then I'm going to dive into a thing on lighting as well. But we'll stop. We'll go through lighting first. When this came out, dimmers, did you ever think that you would be taking it, running through everything, and having $300,000 worth of lighting control? No, you didn't. You never thought that as this stuff evolved, that you'd be going through and building these systems and going from breaker panels to switches to lights to these systems here. And you look at, Lutron came out with this stuff. They started panel centralized lighting. This is a thing, and now boom, you go to this, and this is our reality. And now it's even different, even more so different with Ketra. You throw Ketra in, you can just eliminate your wall switch, throw in just a keypad, and from that, you can do all kinds of things. Full RGBW. Now you're really transforming environments, changing lifestyles, and really enhancing what's going on in the house. I don't think this will show. Yeah, well, I didn't load the video because it was already too big. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if this will play. It won't. What that was is a video of 1989 of some guys in the UK that made a voice control assistant that it was like, okay, computer, listen. So now it turned it on, it was listening, but it wasn't real natural language processing or anything. But now I'm going to jump over to transportation quickly. You look at all these hot air balloons and all this, and like my grandfather, I remember him and his buddies arguing about motor oil and all these things. Now, you look at the best, fastest, maybe not the best, it's opinion, it's subjective. The fastest thing on the road is something that runs on a battery. Has none of that. Very few parts. Things are changing. Can you have those conversations with your clients about electricity, about electric vehicles and storage and all that? Where's it going? Heck, I don't know. Flash Gordon, this would be super cool. I would totally roll on this. I know that Elon would. See rolling up to the mountain. But ultimately, it gets up to moving into like drones and this. And when you start talking to and moving into this AI thing and looking through this and NLP engines and AI, I asked AI with this, and AI is, I think, a little weird right now. I said, please show me the future of home theater, where that is. It's a little kind of fire and brimstone for me. I thought after those pictures, I was like this. I was like, wait. Let's say tomorrow's home theater. And then he came up with these images. And this is pretty interesting, you know, but why did I go over all this? Why? I want you to remember that passion of why you got into this business and the thing that irks you all day, every day, or all the processes of getting this and creating the experiences for other people. That's the hard part. And when you look at it and you go through it in an industry life cycle, and you look at this, it applies to products, this applies to your business, and all the things that you've ever done and pulled into the home. You go through, and you kind of have that introduction, the growth, and then you get into the maturity, and then you get into this decline. The key of this is really like car audio. Car audio is adapting. They're moving more deeply into like marine. They're doing things. They're not gone. What they did is like they just changed their market and started putting it into OEM pieces with the vehicles. Crypto's changing. Automation, we're changing. Are you prepared for the next thing? And really when you start doing that, you're starting to look into really dive into the profitability of your business and how your business is affected. What's the problem with everything you do? Let's say everything in your business goes great and all your projects go like this, on how I'm going to state this. Sales guy sells the project 100% perfectly, doesn't state anything that might be any kind of misnomer. The client understands it. The project goes 24 months later, the client still understands it. Trim, pre-wire, trim, final, programming, all went great. Nothing weird happened on the project. Client paid the change orders, bam. You controlled and did everything under your power. But you do all that right, and you get it final, and you go away. What's the one thing you still don't have control over in the whole house? Is the power system. You don't have control about that. And I'm just as guilty as anyone of not understanding it until really diving in for the past year at SurgeX to understand it. Now, here we go. On the SurgeX side of things and who we are and what we do, we have a parent company behind us, Amatech. Amatech is 180 companies, 62 overall divisions with division presidents that oversee 3 different sections. It's taken a while for me to learn how to go through all of that stuff too, right, Steve? Yeah, but now we're at a point where we have their attention, they're gonna focus on this channel, and we are gonna do something fantastic in it, and we've launched some really cool new products. But we take that and we're pulling from our pedigree of expertise from medical, DOD, aerospace, that other companies in the channel and in the sector can't do. I can confidently stand up here and state that no other power solutions provider in this entire channel does anything like we do. Amatech Power Quality Solutions, we take it to the next level. Now, what's my job? My job is to give you a team, give you the people you need to educate you to know how to navigate that as it affects your profitability, right? So, top questions. How is SurgeX different? Does SurgeX work with Oversee? How long will a UPS work with an outage? Top mistakes. There's no protection or UPS. They're using a Line Interactive UPS. If you don't know the difference between a line interactive UPS and double online conversion, I'll touch on that time permitting. Okay. But then we get into why. Why do we need a double online conversion UPS? Well, you look at this, you look at the power pieces. From the generating station all the way to the secondary customer, there's a lot of potential for things to get messed up. They only have to give you a 10% variance of 120. They can give you 108, they can give you 132. Now, let's back up and talk about what are the products that are the bane of your existence every single day. Why does Oversee exist? Why do we need remote capabilities? And who gets a bad rap? Yeah. Oh, let's go back. These guys. You ask any of your install, any of your techs, they're going to say they hate Apple TVs. They don't like Rokus. Their network pieces aren't good. And HD-based T pieces also get a bad rap as well. Why? These products are transmitting the most amount of data that has ever been transmitting at the fastest speed that it's been transmitted in a consumer environment in a place where the power is inconsistent. So if it's going down, you have a 4-watt device, gets a 10% drop, it drops down to 3.6 watts. It's sending 4K, HDR10, Dolby Atmos, all this stuff through a thing, and you wonder why it glitches and locks up? That's on us, on the channel, to fix that. I feel that rebooting it is not necessarily doing what we need to do. We need to give it stable power. Are we giving it enough power? Oh, I put a dedicated 20 on it. A dedicated 20. One dedicated 20 for a rack of equipment pulling 9,000 watts. That doesn't make, we need to think about that. It's on us now, SurgeX and my sales team, to make sure you guys understand how to do those things properly, to make it so you don't have those glitches, to maintain profitability, to maintain client retention, to get more referrals, to grow everything you're doing and make everything better. Now, what's in the box matters, makes a difference. What we go through and what we kind of run on, where we got? I'm going to start going a little quicker here. So the protection technologies we have, advanced series mode is patented. What it's doing is it's eliminating surge. It's not surge protection. We say protect and connect, but it's surge elimination. I want to make sure everyone understands that. Surge elimination eliminates it. Just by putting that device in the rack, not changing anything else you do, eliminates, I've been told by dealers, and this is not my words, 50% of your service calls. But I want to take that a step further. I want to think bigger. And the concept behind that is PB&J. PB&J. I don't want you to forget this. I want every project for you to think about protect, backup, and justify. The protection element, we have many form factors on that to give you the advanced series mode or a multi-mode in order to make sure that that protection is there, that is non-sacrificial, that can take the high voltage and keep everything moving along. Those three pieces of that protect, backup, and justify, I got this slide backwards, but our protection devices there on the far right. Then we get our double online conversion UPS there in the middle, but I want you to think bigger on that. And then get into the either rack mount or other pieces that we have. So on that protection side, we go into advanced series mode, non-MOV based. The way this works is kind of like noise canceling headphones, but it's a game changer. Use it. We have 4 elements of protection there as well. We go through advanced series mode, inrush current protection, EMI, RFI, and CUVs. These pieces should be at the base of every rack if you don't want to change everything you've got. This is the one to really pay attention to. It's the wall mount piece. Why not protect everything in the house? Why not protect their $3,500 coffee maker, their Viking appliances? Think bigger. Think bigger. Stop thinking outside the rack. Think the whole house. Stop thinking just that one lighting control. Remember, think bigger. This is a new category. If you're not you're selling 300 grand worth of lighting and shades, why not sell 100 grand worth of what? Power protection. Get into this and we get into the other form factors and we can dive into that in the booth. We have a happy hour at 3 o'clock in our booth. Please come by and we'll talk about this. What I want you to think about and really focus on is the large format UPSs. I pair these with the PF420. This takes 60 amps in. Then you go out and you take, from there, you have 80 amp capability on the PF420. This will fix your problems. If you give, this is healthy eating, Tai Chi, yoga, all the exercise, meditation for your equipment, you know? Not going into just plugging into the wall and hoping for all the best that all the fast food type power can give you. Give it the clean power. Now, the justification side is the most exciting piece. Protect and connect is our new mantra, thanks to our marketing team. And what we have here is this is something that goes deeper than anything else that's out there today. All of our new Plus Series products have this SurgeX Connect platform. We give you a deeper dive into things. And on the justification side, let's say you go through, I'm going to tap through, come by, I'll show you a demo. I want to get to this. On the smaller side of these UPSs and doing it in this format, this is a smaller system. But I want you to think bigger. Look at it this way. Now, we draw a line here for outside generator. Do you know how to talk about this with your clients? From the generator solar storage over to what we maintain and what we focus on is inside the rack right now. That will change. You get into think even bigger, larger format, 4 of those, 40 kVA on your AV systems. There's a house in Aspen we're working on right now. We're putting 5 large formats on all the racks. Each rack is pulling about 9,000 watts. We get into what we just launched, Vertical Series. We just took an award for this. We go through what these power management pieces, these still need protection, but they give you all these access and all the capabilities. The Defender Series is a new rack mount piece as well. Multi-stage power protection on that, Access Plus. We keep going. I'm just going to run through this stuff quick because then we get into the display packs with the new pieces that are also non-sacrificial that mount behind the TVs. Now, I go through and I'm going to just get to the end of this so I can take some questions maybe before I get kicked off of the stage. But protect, back up, justify, SurgeX, booth 3920, free beer, 3920, free beer at 3 o'clock. Come by, I'll show you more, we'll talk about it. I appreciate you guys that came and everybody that does support me. I ran through some stuff at the end. I took you for a ride, but you know, it could have just been me up here dancing, singing, doing anything. That's what everybody asked me what they're doing. All my good friends out there that didn't show up, they're like, what are you going to do on stage for 45 minutes? Sing, rap, all this? No, I spared you that. But remember, all this stuff that you're doing is fun. Remember that. Don't get hung up on all the stuff. Remember why you got into this. This stuff's fun, right, Ashton? You're having fun. Every day we have fun and we create fun, and nothing's more exciting than sitting that experience of a customer's face light up when they hit the button or they say, okay, Josh, turn on the room, and everything turns on, or listen to whatever, and all that stuff happens, right? And so, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Let's get out there and create this industry and take it where it needs to go. Thank you.